Transformative call. Billionaire CEO dials wrong number. Discovers touching truth from little girl Alex Carter sat in his sleek office, the skyline of San Francisco casting a golden hue over the massive glass windows. He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his perfectly coiffed hair. Meetings filled his day, with numbers and projections bleeding into his restless nights. Wealth surrounded him, yes, but something darker loomed as well, a hollow feeling that gnawed at his insides, reminding him of the human connection he had sacrificed for success. Distracted by the impending merger, he absent-mindedly hit the dial button before he realized it was a wrong number. Hello? A small, bright voice chimed through the receiver. Hi. Alex stumbled, the stress of his day suddenly replaced by confusion. Did I reach someone? Yes. Who is this? She sounded cheerful, almost too cheerful amidst the chaotic noise of Alex's thoughts. Alex Carter. You? Lily. How old are you? 8, she said, bursting with energy. Innocent chatter filled the air, the realities of power exchanges and investment strategies slipping into the background. But then, the conversation twisted unexpectedly. Mr. Carter, what do you think makes someone truly successful? Her innocent query struck him like a lightning bolt. Did she really want to know? Could he even answer? He hesitated, wrestling with an internal tug of war. Money, I suppose, he half-heartedly replied, a shallow answer emerging. You mean it's not about being a good person? The child's probing question cut deep, eliciting an uncomfortable twitch in his gut. As she continued to speak, an avalanche of guilt surged within him. Was he really a good person or merely a product of ambition? Weeks went by, and Alex found himself pulled into their peculiar bond, famously focused on the realities of Silicon Valley, but suddenly enraptured by the voice of this young girl. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned to weeks, and while Alex excused his nightly calls as remote mentorship, he could feel something crack within his polished exterior. He learned of her struggles in school, the ridicule for her intelligence, and her family's tight budget. Each story filled him with echoes of his own childhood, spending long nights dreaming amid parental expectations. The economic chasm he had created lounged heavily in the back of his mind. As they traded jokes and life lessons, her enthusiasm for science sparked a mixture of pride and anxiety within him. When she revealed her grandfather's work on solar technology, the stakes shifted dramatically. He imagined the two worlds colliding, Lily's dream and his corporate influence. But at what cost? Would her ideas be another stepping stone for his ambition, or a missed opportunity for her own fulfillment? One night, just before her science fair, she called, panic evident in her voice. What if I'm not good enough? What if they laugh at me? Fear dripped from her words, echoing the suffocating pressure of expectations. In that moment, Alex felt trapped. His heart raced, grounding him in the urgency of the moment. This was no longer about a call or mentorship. This was about lives intertwined by ambition and innocence, a burgeoning conscience pleading for authenticity. Would he choose to elevate her spirit or bask in the allure of what her brilliance could mean for his empire? He glanced at his phone, lingering on the screen. The boundary between corporate ambition and compassion had never seemed so fragile, both worlds crashing against each other. In the silence that followed, Alex felt the weight of his decision suffocating him, knowing that choosing one path could forever alter both of their lives. Each option looming larger than the last, he now stood at an emotional precipice with no clear way back. The silence stretched, a palpable tension coating the air around Alex. In that moment, he was no longer a billion-dollar CEO. He was just a man facing a moral crossroads. He closed his eyes, attempting to sift through the chaotic entanglement of expectations and motivations. Beneath the confidence projected to the world and the walls of glass and steel that encapsulated his corporate life, a tender vulnerability lay exposed. Lily's voice echoed in his mind, the weight of her question reverberating long after they'd hung up. What if they laugh at me? The thoughts swirled about his head like an uninvited tempest, dragging memories of his own stumbles through youth to the surface. Was he any different from this little girl? Wielding power and prestige didn't insulate him from the fear of scrutiny, nor did it shield him from the walk of shame that came with failure. Suddenly, he questioned whether his existence had become a one-dimensional pursuit of success, devoid of any meaningful empathy. His fingers itched for his phone to share the burden of this realization with Lily, but for what purpose? Was it to bolster his fragile ego, to proclaim he was someone capable of compassion and self-reflection? Or could he genuinely impart strength to a girl on the brink of her first significant challenge? Driven by an instinct he had long buried beneath spreadsheets and trading forecasts, Alex sank deeper into contemplation. He arrived at a decision with surprising clarity. He couldn't simply offer hollow reassurances. Authentic connection required him to share not only triumphs, but also vulnerabilities. He gathered his thoughts, piecing together his own childhood fears and the cost of ambition, hoping that the truth of his experiences could serve as light to guide her. The next day, before meeting with his executive team, he found a quiet corner of his opulent office. The view seemed to blur as he tapped out a text to Lily, distilled yet raw. Life is often overwhelming. I felt scared, too, just like you. You're not alone. Hitting send felt liberating, a first step toward reconnecting with the part of himself he had muffled for far too long. Days passed, and the forward momentum brought a new vibrancy to his life. His interactions at work shifted. He began listening more, allowing insights from his team to take root. Instead of merely directing initiatives, he guided conversations toward discovering collective motivations, efforts that craved authenticity rather than mere profitability. The transition began to unravel a renewed enthusiasm for his career, something he and T felt in years. As Science Fair Day approached, he planned to attend as a quiet supporter, an unassuming cheerleader on the sidelines. This decision propelled an energy surge through him. He wanted to convey that success wasn't merely measured by accolades, but rather how one navigated adversity with integrity and passion. On the day of the science fair, Alex stood at a distance, observing Lily set up her solar model, a heartwarming contrast to his high-staked corporate world. He saw the tentative movements in her hands, her nervous glances toward the crowd. The sheer brilliance of her ambition ignited a fire within him, sparking an epiphany. He needed to advocate for her dreams, to protect that innocence and brilliance from the corporate machinery that had consumed his own. As he took a deep breath, ready to approach her, a flicker from an approaching figure distracted him. An investor he had previously crossed paths with loomed closer, a subtle yet malicious grin on his face, intent on undermining Alex's new resolve. The first whispers of confrontation began to unravel the peace he had constructed. Did his commitment to personal integrity make him vulnerable or more powerful than ever? The moment had come, not just to embrace Lily's journey, but to face the daunting figures of the business world with newfound courage. Alex's heart raced as the figure drew near, each step emanating a palpable aura of intimidation. The investor, Richard Darnell, was not just any acquaintance. He was a formidable player in the ruthless corporate game, a man whose penchant for manipulation left a trail of discontent in his wake. As Richard's smirk widened, Alex's resolve wavered. "Alex," Richard began, his tone saccharine, yet laden with mockery. "Still trying to save the world one school project at a time, I see. How quaint." The dismissive words twisted in Alex's gut, mingling alarm with an unexpected clarity. Richard embodied the very soul of the culture Alex was striving to undermine. He was a reminder of the relentless pressure to conform to detachment, to prioritize profit over people. This was not just a confrontation about Lily. It was a collision with the values Alex had spent years cultivating in the shadow of relentless ambition. With a deep breath, he steadied himself. "Richard, I'm not here to engage in your games. Success is more than quarterly results or public accolades." As he articulated the change within him, the weight of his responsibility to both Lily and his team coursed through him. Richard's eyebrows shot up in disbelief. "You really think they care about your new paternal instincts?" He leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "This city eats dreamers alive. You might want to get back in line before you lose everything you've built." The challenge lingered between them, hanging heavy in the air. In that moment, Alex felt the familiar reflex to recoil, the urge to protect his carefully constructed empire. But with each insult Richard hurled, it fueled a fire within him, an awakening that challenged the emotional numbness he had accepted as part of his identity. Maybe I'm ready to lose everything, Alex shot back, the truth igniting his voice. What is the point of success if it comes at the expense of who I am? His resolve crystallized, reflecting the transformation that was steadily taking shape. There was a flicker of surprise across Richard's face, followed by a predatory grin. This is your folly, my friend. You think authenticity matters in this world? It's the illusion of power that charms the masses. In the silence that followed, doubt poured in like a storm. Could he really tear down the walls that had shielded his vulnerabilities for so long? Or was he merely setting himself up for another catastrophic fall? The resilience he felt at that moment was new. It energized him even while taunting him with its fragility. Instead of answering Richard, Alex's gaze shifted back towards Lily, who was now positioning her model with frantic efficiency. Her determination soothed the storm in him. This was more than just a school project. It represented purity, the kind of tenacity he had to rediscover. He couldn't allow the venom of Richard's words to poison that commitment. Feeling invigorated, he faced Richard one last time, standing taller than before. You may thrive on fear, Richard, but I want to build my legacy on the same. It's time to find out what value really means. Richard's laughter echoed like a chilling wind, but it barely grazed Alex's confidence as he turned away. With each step he took towards Lily, more resistance dissipated. Maybe he was not only capable of protecting her dreams, perhaps he could finally carve a path that honored his own alongside them. Yet as he knelt beside Lily, ready to delve into her excitement for the project, a new unease prickled at him. What if the world he was freshly stepping into was not as forgiving as he hoped? What if revealing his true self exposed him to deeper vulnerabilities? That nagging thought lingered, as did the reality that every choice was connected to uncharted challenges ahead. The moment of realization arrived not just for Lily's success, but for his journey ahead. Just then, his phone vibrated. A message flashed across the screen from one of his executives, a stark reminder of the dual life he was trying to navigate. The battle for integrity and authenticity had only just begun. What awaited him on the other side of this new path? As Alex knelt beside Lily, ready to immerse himself in her passion for the project, the buzz from his phone had jolted him back to the present. The message from his executive read like a litany of expectations, a stark contrast to the warmth emanating from the child's creativity. Though his heart yearned to remain in this serene moment, his mind raced with the implications of the corporate demands piling on his shoulders. This is about more than just me now, he murmured to himself, irritation and determination tightening his chest. It wasn't just an obligation. It was a test of his fortitude to stand firm against the winds of corporate expectation. He briefly glanced at Lily as she triumphantly adjusted her project, the small cardboard model representing not just a school assignment, but a vision for a better world. Her innocence reminded him of the purpose he was gradually untangling from the chaos of adult ambition. Staring at the screen, he felt Richard's words clawing at the back of his mind. The illusion of power charms the masses. How far had he fallen into believing that power equated to success? He swallowed hard. This was the first of many confrontations, both external and internal, that would define his journey going forward. Lily, he said, positioning himself to meet her excited gaze, what do you think success really means? Lily's brow furrowed in concentration, a moment of pure childlike contemplation. It means making things that help people, right? Like this, she said, gesturing toward her project. It's going to save the bees. His heart warmed. Her intention was explicit and pure. It was more than he could articulate, something foundational he wished to reclaim. Exactly. You're right. This is about helping others. In that instant, he understood. To allow the corporate world to dictate his values would be to deny the very essence of progress he admired. He had to find a way to align his world with hers, where purpose transcended profit. Still, the vibrating screen beckoned. Just as quickly as positivity surged, a knot of dread returned. Each ping from his phone pulled him deeper into the demands of a world intent on measuring success solely in financial figures and growth metrics. This revelation felt like a battleground, the authenticity he sought to embrace pitched against the facade he had meticulously maintained. Standing, he cleared his throat, turning to face Richard's mocking energy lingering in his mind. There's a meeting in half an hour, he told Lily, but his tone was now laced with purpose rather than resignation. But we'll get back to this. I want your thoughts on how we can make it even better. As she began to rattle off ideas, a game plan formulated in Alex's mind. He would show up at that meeting, but not as the Alex molded by corporate coolness, but rather as a version forged through his newfound commitment to integrity. The deeper layers of his professional facade began to feel suffocating. It was time to redefine what leadership meant. Each interaction and every choice from now on would serve as both a statement and a challenge. He would strategically navigate the treacherous waters of business, ready to redefine value and prioritize authenticity in a landscape riddled with disillusionment. But even as he started to map this new approach, an approach inspired by a child's innocent ambition, a flicker of fear continued to smolder within. What did it mean to challenge the very structure that had served him for years? How would his peers react? The stakes surged higher. He could either blend in with the office culture or risk his standing for something more meaningful. With his heart in his throat, Alex rose to leave, the message still undelivered in his hand. The path was clear, yet shrouded in uncertainty. He was balancing his integrity on a precarious tightrope, the next step promising both liberation and peril. As he smoothed his expression and prepared to step into the fray, one thought pierced the tumult within. The time had come to face the very culture he once embodied head-on and on his own terms. When he glanced back at Lily, determination surged through him. This necessary change was not just for himself, but for all those he sought to inspire. With each step towards the office, Alex felt the weight and freedom intertwine. How would he confront the entrenched values that had once seemed immovable? Would he emerge victorious in redefining success within a system designed to thwart him? Only time would tell, but one thing was undeniable. A major transformation was imminent, and he was ready to answer the call. As Alex stepped into the polished glass and steel fortress of his corporate office, the familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the antiseptic aroma of newly polished surfaces. The sharp contrast between the sterile environment and the warmth of his earlier moment with Lily gnawed at him. Each methodical step toward the conference room felt weighted, a reminder of the chasm developing between who he was and who he wanted to become. Upon entering, he was greeted by a chorus of mourning, Alex from his colleagues, the polite tones underscoring a veil of superficiality. He offered a half-hearted smile, his mind preoccupied with genuine thoughts rather than obligatory niceties. Settling into his seat at the conference table, Alex glanced around, observing faces that seemed more interested in status than substance. Richard, seated at the far end, caught his eye and flashed an insincere smirk. It provoked a tightening in his chest, a reminder of the very culture he was now prepared to confront. The meeting commenced with a barrage of projections and metrics, accompanied by a predictable panorama of business jargon. Alex felt his resolve flickering under the fluorescent lights as the conversation oscillated between quarterly targets and net profitability. Each statistic echoed Richard's belief that success was synonymous with ruthless competition and corporate prowess. Yet when the opportunity came for his input, Alex felt a strange stillness envelop him. Before we dive deeper into the financial reports, he interjected, finding his voice surprisingly steady. I believe we need to discuss the impact of our projects beyond the numbers. Success is not merely hitting targets, but also affecting lives positively. An unsettling silence replaced the routine banter, heads turning toward him as if he had crossed an invisible line. Richard leaned forward, eyebrows raised, probing for weakness. That's a nice sentiment, Alex, but our shareholders want to care about feelings when their dividends are on the line. The challenge hung in the air, heavy and oppressive. Instead of recoiling, a wave of adrenaline surged through Alex. But what if we focused on long-term relationships instead? Building a brand that is respected for its commitment to social good? We could make a difference while still being profitable, he proposed, launching into the vision that had been coalescing in his mind since his encounter with Lily. Richard scoffed, visibly irritated by the derailment of the meeting's focus. Yet, as Alex continued to speak passionately intertwining corporate objectives, and community impact, something shifted. Colleagues began to nod in agreement, an undercurrent of support rising amid the tension. This was unfamiliar territory. Alex realized he was stepping into a leadership framework that transcended traditional paradigms. Vulnerability was a risk, but leaning into authenticity felt liberating. However, just as the momentum grew, a pang of fear slashed through his confidence. What if this was all posturing? Could he maintain this newfound approach without sacrificing his career? The meeting resumed its business-like demeanor, but Alex felt invigorated by a flicker of hope. He realized that this was only the beginning. As Richard concluded the session with a recitation of performance goals, Alex felt an unexpected resolve solidifying within him. Later that day, as he sat at his desk, the weight of the corporate world pressing down fiercely, he recalled Lily's innocent ambition. She represented a world where success was measured by meaningful contributions rather than mere financial gain. The conflict within him boiled. He was standing at a crossroad. Continue on the well-trodden path of corporate ambition or forge a new route, one that embraced authenticity and societal accountability. The stakes were higher than ever. Aligning his professional life with his evolving values might alienate allies and security, but forging ahead without addressing these issues felt worse. Just then, as he stared blankly at the metrics he had previously pored over, a notification blinked to life, another message from Richard, a stark reminder of the pressures holding him captive. Yet now, the email felt less like a restriction and more like an opportunity to redefine his engagement with the corporate beast. As he exhaled, poised over the keyboard to type a response, dread mingled with anticipation. He could feel the tension of an impending resolution build within him. The phone buzzed again, a reminder of the ongoing corporate game he was playing. But this time, he was ready to approach it differently. Would he reclaim his authority tactfully without forfeiting authenticity? The thought hung in the air like a tantalizing dare. His next move could either reinforce him or shatter the corporate mold around him. Continuing to breathe deeply, he wondered just how far he was willing to push against the tides. The catalyst for change was igniting, and with it, Alex sensed that the moments confronting his deepest fears were drawing near. Alex stared at the screen, the email from Richard lurking like a predator ready to pounce. Searching for the right words, he felt the weight of every keystroke rise in significance. This wasn't just about responding to a superior. It was about finding the confidence to express a different vision for the company, one that echoed his evolving values while navigating the treacherous waters of corporate hierarchy. He took a deep breath, fingers hovering over the keyboard, and began crafting a response. Instead of accepting the status quo, he proposed a team meeting dedicated to discussing corporate social responsibility initiatives that could complement their bottom line. His heart raced, unsure of the repercussions. Would Richard fume? Would his colleagues view him as a naive dreamer? Or was it possible they would rally behind the authenticity he was desperately trying to harness? His inner voice echoed Lily's belief in making a difference. Could he make this imperceptible shift tangible, not just for himself, but for the entire team? With trembling fingers, he pressed send, the notification vanishing into the ether. Over the next few hours, anxiety gnawed at him. His scope of imagination expanded alongside his fear, flickering between hope and dread as he imagined the responses, some eager for change, others disgusted. He paced the small confines of his office, the sterile walls closing in, feeling more like a captive than a leader. Each click of the clock resonated with his racing heartbeat. Finally, Richard's reply arrived. Alex, let us stick to what we know. Metrics show the path to sustained profit. CSR projects are a luxury we cannot afford right now. A wave of disappointment washed over him. It felt like an anchor dragging him underwater. Yet, amid the shadows of doubt, a flicker of determination surged. Why should his ideas drown under the weight of conservative thinking? Alex gradually began to deconstruct the response, triggering a realization the very essence of a corporate leader lay in navigating opposition, not merely succumbing to it. He could become the conduit for change, pulling others along, rather than being sidelined. The next morning, he arrived early as usual, the office still cloaked in dim light. He needed a strategy. This time, he would prepare for an inevitable confrontation. Instead of crashing against Richard's brick wall, he would endeavor to build bridges, uniting colleagues with shared sentiments. With renewed vigor, he drafted an outline for the team meeting that would not only highlight potential CSR initiatives, but frame them within the context of financial gain. Each slide reinforced the message that ethical leadership translated into sustainable success. His pulse quickened at the thought of approaching this discourse as a collaborative mission rather than a solitary battle. As the day progressed, whispers of Alex's ideas circulated among his colleagues. Those who had previously nodded during his first bold proclamation began approaching him, eager to express their own desires for a company that prioritized more than profits. Beneath the surface, a current of dissent against Richard's rigid stance stirred. Alex sensed the brewing unity and felt more empowered. But doubt, that familiar specter, crept back in. What if he was too late? What if Richard's influence was too great? Alex feared pushing too hard. Could it risk everything he had? Navigating office politics had never felt more like a double-edged sword. As the appointed hour for the meeting arrived, his colleagues gathered. The buzz in the room hinted at anticipation. Alex stood at the front, the slides glowing behind him, ready to reveal the deeper purpose that had ignited within him. This was his moment for realignment and authenticity at a crossroads of potential rejection and support. Today, he began, the tremor in his voice transforming into resolve. We're here to rethink what it means to be successful in business. But before he could delve deeper, a loud knock reverberated through the room, startling everyone. All eyes turned toward the door, and Alex's heart sank. This unexpected interruption could mean anything: another adversarial message, or perhaps Richard? The tension crackled like electricity in the air, and Alex braced himself, knowing the conversation could steer toward a direction that either affirmed his stance or dismantled it entirely. This decisive moment could either bind him closer to his vision or sever his aspirations for change completely. His breath quickened as the door swung open, revealing an unexpected face that may change everything. The door creaked slightly as it opened, revealing Sarah, one of the junior analysts whose infectious enthusiasm had often pierced the office's usual monotony. Alex felt an immediate surge of relief mixed with confusion. He had anticipated Richard, not the friendly face of someone who seemed to believe in the very change Alex was advocating. "Alex, sorry to interrupt," Sarah exclaimed, beaming. "I was just in the lounge, and I overheard people discussing the meeting. They're excited. They're actually buzzing about it." Her excitement radiated through the tense atmosphere, a stark contrast to the knot tightening in Alex's stomach. "Really?" he replied, surprised at the unexpected optimism. "Yeah, people are genuinely intrigued by what you're proposing. It's not just another mundane report. They want to hear about CSR initiatives and how they can make a meaningful impact." Encouraged by her words, he nodded and replied, "I just hope Richard doesn't undermine it." "Let him try," Sarah challenged, her smile unwavering. "You've got this, Alex. You need to trust yourself." Her words carried weight. They hinted at what Alex needed to reckon with: his tendency to get overwhelmed by external pressures and his inner critic. With a quick smile, he took a deep breath, feeling the weight of potential uplift his spirits. "All right, let us do this," he muttered, stepping back into the spotlight, flipping through his notes. As he resumed his presentation, Alex felt invigorated, buoyed by Sarah's belief. The room remained silent but expectant. He took a moment to recalibrate, grounding himself in the purpose he'd unearthed amidst the corporate chatter. "We live in a growingly aware world," he declared, pacing a bit. "Our clients are looking for authenticity, and our brand can no longer afford to dismiss that." With each slide, he illustrated a vision where values aligned with profits, painting the picture of a thriving, empathetic organization. Some colleagues leaned forward, nodding in agreement, while others whispered to one another, intrigued by a new perspective. Alex observed raised hands for questions, and for the first time, this engaged dialogue felt less like a mere defense of his proposal and more like a movement towards a shared vision. However, he still felt Richard's sharp disapproval looming around the corner. If he could derail everything just by walking through that door, there was no telling how volatile the situation could become. Before he could delve deeper into a proposed initiative targeting local environmental issues that could also attract media coverage, another knock interrupted the kind that sent a chill through the room. The door opened again, and this time, Richard strode in, and his presence darkened the atmosphere. "Alex, you've taken liberties I didn't grant." Richard's voice boomed, drawing all attention, his eyes like daggers glaring directly at Alex. A palpable tension spread throughout the meeting as Alex's heart raced. This was the confrontation he had prepared for, yet the breathlessness of the moment caught him cold. Could he stand ground despite Richard's looming authority? "Liberties or possibilities, Richard?" Alex replied, feeling a flicker of bravery ignite within him. "We have the chance to lead beyond mere profits." Richard's brow furrowed at the defiance, a storm brewing in his expression. "You are confusing idealism with realism, Alex. Mark my words, this is not why we're here." The stakes surged beyond mere disagreement as Alex wrestled with fear and resolve. Would he fold under the pressure, or could he draw strength from the support he felt just moments ago? As Richard started to lay out his counterargument, something shifted in Alex's mind, a new realization dawning. This was more than just a battle of ideas. This was about his own evolution, a moment demanding he not just defend his vision but embody it entirely. The room fell silent, the air crackling with uncertainty and anticipation. Did Alex have what it took to challenge the status quo, seeking to undermine his growing authenticity? A realization struck him. Deep, it was only through confronting fear that he could ignite a meaningful change within himself and ultimately the organization. And so, with every bead of perspiration gathering on his brow, he felt the magnitude of his decision sharpen. The moment had come to unveil the true measure of his courage. "Richard," Alex breathed, his voice steadier now, "I think it's time we redefine what we mean by success." What would Richard's response reveal? And would Alex's bold stand alter the course of his career or spell doom for his aspirations? As the words left Alex's mouth, a hush fell over the room. Richard's demeanor shifted, almost imperceptibly. His brows drew together, and his lips compressed into a thin line. The tension crackled like static electricity, and Alex could feel the collective breath of his colleagues held in anticipation. Had he crossed a line too far, or had he unlocked something profound? Richard composed himself, adjusting his suit jacket as if preparing for a duel. "Redefining success is a noble goal," he began, his voice laced with condescension. "But success by our standards means delivering profits, maintaining shareholder trust. This," he gestured toward the screen displaying Alex's carefully crafted proposals, "is merely a distraction from our primary mission." Their gaze met, and in that fleeting moment, Alex sensed the weight of the confrontation. Richard was more than just a superior. He was a bastion of old-school corporate mentality, resistant to any notion that didn't align with narrow profit margins. Yet Alex had long been a product of that system and found himself standing here, inch by inch, tear after tear of that mold had cracked. "Isn't it possible," Alex countered, feeling a current of confidence envelop him, "that by embracing these initiatives, we might build a more sustainable future? One that is not just about quarterly statements, but that enhances our brand's legacy? There's a way to intertwine our values with our goals without sacrificing one for the other." A murmur swept through the room, punctuated by tentative nods. For the first time, Alex sensed that he had ignited a spark among some of his peers. It felt as if they were leaning into his vision rather than passively observing it. The anxiety that had burrowed in his stomach began to unfurl into a steely resolve. Richard's smile was cold as he replied, "You think these buzzwords will win over our stakeholders? Mentioning sustainability sells well in discussions, but it won't fill our coffers." His formidable stance could not mask the flicker of unease that crossed his face, though, showing that he, too, felt the shifts starting beneath his feet. Alex realized then that an antagonistic approach wouldn't suffice. Richard's perspective was mired in fear of losing control. "That's just it," Alex continued, voice steadier and clearer now. "People, clients, partners are evolving. They crave transparency and authenticity. If we pivot to embrace this shift, we can lead the industry instead of trailing behind. This isn't merely idealism, it's smart business." Richard's jaw tightened as he seemed to weigh Alex's words. Each second stretched on, and Alex prepared himself for the potential barrage of criticism and pushback. But something told him this wasn't just a meeting, it was a turning point. Instead of rushing to counter, Richard shifted gears. And what makes you think your peers will follow you? You can rattle off statistics, sketches of dreams, but without backing from the top, you're spinning a wheel. Deep in Alex's mind, reality rang clear. This journey was about more than a proposal. It was a test of his leadership. His mind raced, scanning the faces around him. They were here, listening, engaged. Suddenly, he felt a rush of camaraderie that urged him forward. I don't need to stand alone. If we unite our voices, combine my approach with your experience, Richard, we might prove that change is not a liability, but an asset. Our combined efforts can truly transform the perception of our brand. This collaboration could mark the beginning of something much bigger than ourselves. He watched as Richard faltered, the ferocity in his eyes softened by a flicker of intrigue. Did Alex's proposition strike a chord, or was he merely grasping at shadows? The atmosphere shifted, a blend of hope and trepidation threaded through the room. Perhaps Richard finally said, but his voice hung in the air, weighed down by uncertainty. Alex could feel the momentum gathering. The opportunity lay before him. He could not let it slip away. If we can demonstrate to our clients and stakeholders that our concern for social responsibility doesn't deter profits, but nurtures them, that will be our true success. In those words lay the challenge. He needed a call to action for himself and for Richard. He wasn't just advocating for a presentation. He was advocating for a fundamental shift in the atmosphere they had all lived in too long. As the air grew thick with potential, Alex understood that he had turned a corner. Yet there remained a thick cloud hanging above them. How could he collaborate with Richard, someone so deeply entrenched in old ways, to actually make the necessary shift? And in that moment of transformation, possibility dawned. Would he take this further, pushing Richard to embrace change? Or would he become a silent footnote in the annals of corporate history? With renewed determination, Alex steadied his gaze on Richard, ready for whatever came next. Richard leaned back in his chair, his posture shifting from defensive to contemplative, though the glint of skepticism still shone in his eyes. Alex saw the moment of vulnerability manifest in Richard's expression. It was a crack in a fortress that had stood for years. It filled him with an exhilaration that almost surprised him. This was no longer merely about policy changes or presentations. This was a radical reshaping of his own identity as a leader. Let us consider the metrics, then. Say we embark on this path, what would success even look like? Richard asked, a glimmer of curiosity breaking through his usual stoicism. A challenge. Alex's heart raced, but he sensed the opening. The question forced him to clarify his vision, to solidify the ground he had staked out. He pulled from a deeper well of understanding than he had anticipated, drawing on the knowledge he had gained through both study and life experience. Successful integration of these initiatives would not just be measured in numbers, but in outcomes. Picture a more engaged workforce, a community that resonates with our brand's narrative, and clients who become ambassadors. We could establish metrics that track not only profit but also social impact, employee satisfaction surveys, consumer trust indices, even partnerships with community organizations that bolster brand visibility, he articulated, each word crystallizing his resolve and intentions. His colleagues' eyes widened. Alex noted each eyebrow raised, every shift in body language that signaled their engagement and their hope. They seemed to be looking at him differently now, less as an underdog and more as a visionary. Richard observed him closely, a storm brewing behind the calm facade. Are you suggesting we prioritize emotional engagement over fiscal growth? Yes, Alex said firmly, a flash of adrenaline propelling him forward. But it doesn't have to be an either/or situation. Together, we can weave our narrative with the bottom line. If we position our brand as a leader in authentic corporate responsibility, we can attract new demographics, millennials, Gen Z. They don't just want a product, they want an alignment of values. You speak of millennials as if they hold the power over our wallets, Richard remarked, skepticism sharpened. But what do we know about their loyalty? It's fluid. They'll shift to the next shiny object. Exactly, Alex replied, feeling the debate take shape around him, which is why emotional connection is critical. It ties them to us. And that's what can ensure their loyalty. Their buying decisions won't just be transactional, they'll be relational. He felt the momentum building, as if the very walls of resistance around Richard began to soften. Though he needed to nail this down, his heart also hammered with the weight of the stakes. What if Richard rebuffed him again? What if this glimmer of change was extinguished before it could catch fire? Let us put it to the test. Then, Richard said, a challenging glint sparking in his eye. If you can gather a solid proposal backed by solid data, we'll take it to the board. But I don't want just pie-in-the-sky dreams. I want actionable insights, a clear roadmap, and someone to pilot it, preferably you. A knot of apprehension tightened in Alex's stomach. The blueprint of responsibility started framing in his mind, but was he truly ready to lead it? The validation felt intoxicating yet daunting. Yes, I'll take on that challenge, came the reply from his lips, though shadows of doubt bubbled under his surface. I will assemble the data and outline how we can initiate these changes effectively. Then let us see if you can steer this ship, Richard said, a half-smile threatening to break the rigid control of his features. The air thickened with the gravity of Alex's commitment. He realized he was not merely stepping into the role of a policy advocate. He was entering the realm of a leader poised for transformation, an architect of change deeply entwined with a corporate revival that could question the very fabric of long-standing ideologies. Yet, uncertainty hung over him. Could he pull it off? Would he be able to translate his vision into realities that resonated at every level of the organization? As he exited the conference room, a mixture of excitement and dread coursed through him. His mind raced with possibilities, but also feared the dire consequences of failure. The challenge ahead echoed within him as he walked down the fluorescent-lit hallway. Could he cultivate the courage necessary to navigate uncharted waters and truly redefine success? Or would he sink quietly beneath the weight of expectation? An answer remained out of reach, but Alex knew he had touched a nerve. The stakes were suddenly much higher. The time had come to face the realities of his ambition. Would he rise to the occasion, or would this just become another tale of too little, too late? Days turned into weeks as Alex dedicated himself to the challenge Richard had set forth. He dug deep, collecting data and outlining a new framework for corporate responsibility that intertwined impact with profit. Each report crystallized his vision, an ambitious blueprint that aimed to shatter the perception of success within his organization. In crafting this initiative, he established clear metrics for tracking social impact, employee engagement, and client loyalty, an effort that enveloped him in a renewed sense of purpose. His mornings were spent poring over numbers and case studies, while afternoons transformed into brainstorming sessions with his colleagues, increasingly motivated by the likelihood of making a difference. They rallied around Alex, pulling together ideas that showcased how socially responsible initiatives could lead to profits through enhanced brand loyalty and market differentiation. As he guided the burgeoning coalition, he felt an undeniable energy shift among them. Newfound camaraderie grew stronger, lighting a shared conviction that had long been obscured. Simultaneously, his previous apprehensions diminished. No longer shackled by uncertainty, Alex began to recognize his worth. Each meeting became a platform for him to demonstrate the intersection of compassion and ambition, as he merged corporate acumen with social consciousness, a synthesis that had eluded him before. When presentation day arrived, the atmosphere inside the boardroom felt electric. Colleagues poured in, ready to support his initiative, their collective belief electrifying the air. Richard, representing the old guard, sat across the table, arms crossed defensively, but even he couldn't hide the begrudging curiosity lighting his gaze. With confidence surging like a tidal wave, Alex launched into his proposal, meticulously detailing the potential benefits of instituting a corporate social responsibility program. His passion resonated with enthusiasm as he shared examples from successful organizations that had embraced social impact without sacrificing profitability. This is not about sacrificing what we've built. It's about building better, he stated, palpable determination in his voice. He presented transformative case studies revealing measurable results. Companies that prioritize social responsibility have seen customer loyalty rise by over 30% and employee productivity increase significantly. By embedding these values into our core, we not only solidify our reputation but elevate our market position. The shift in the room was palpable. A few investors nodded, while murmurs of approval rippled amongst his peers. With each slide, Alex drew them deeper into his vision, illustrating not only the metrics, but also how they could inspire change within their community. He brought in the voices of those who would benefit from their decisions. The stories of individuals and families illuminated the data, providing a human touch that made their mission feel urgent and real. Richard shifted in his seat, brow furrowing as he absorbed Alex's passionate argument. During a pause in the presentation, Alex directed his gaze toward Richard. We can either be reactive, waiting for trends to shape our destiny, or we can shape our own legacy. The choice is ours. The challenge hung heavy in the air, inviting contemplation. When the final slide illuminated their new vision of success centered around ethical impact, Alex felt the weight of his journey culminate into this singular moment. The board members deliberated, a wave of optimism rolling through the room. After a moment of silence, Richard finally spoke, albeit begrudgingly. You've given this considerable thought, haven't you? I'll admit, this approach is more compelling than I expected. His voice held a hint of respect, yet it remained tipped with skepticism. Before Alex could respond, another board member chimed in. If we move forward with this, we need a pilot program. Let us put this into action. The room was alive with discussions of next steps, igniting fervent dialogue among those previously skeptical. Elation coursed through Alex as the momentum built. Change was within his grasp. He had shaped a vision that inspired others. As they discussed implementation, Richard grudgingly offered his support, signaling a seismic shift in their corporate culture. In the end, as their conversations culminated into tangible commitments, Alex stood among his colleagues, who surrounded him with burgeoning excitement. They had climbed higher together. Their united belief in the power of human connection kindled a flame of renewed ambition. With a deep breath, Alex reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He had transformed from an ambitious CEO drowning in corporate expectations into a leader embracing authenticity and purpose. He felt solid confidence and recognized competence within himself, no longer a hollow reflection of past fears, but a figure of assurance advocating for a better future. As he looked around the room, a profound sense of achievement washed over him. This was more than a professional accomplishment. It was a personal metamorphosis into the leader he always aspired to be. Standing there, among the colleagues who had become his advocates, Alex knew he had proven to himself that true success lies in inspiring change while honoring humanity. Now it's time for you to become part of this transformative journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your appreciation for these powerful narratives. Comment your reactions and theories about this impressive ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share your support. I know you're ready for the next inspiring tale.